A new game, Night Defense, launches with a massive prize for clearing its Hell Dream mode. The reward is a life-altering 10 billion won for the first player to succeed. A young man stares intently, believing that money is his only way out. His desk is buried under textbooks, a clear sign of the immense pressure he's under. He sees the game as a path to escape his current life for good. Meanwhile, the news celebrates his father, the seemingly perfect Assemblyman Him Yui-soo. The media spotlight then shifts to the Assemblyman's son, a top student and rising star. This son, Him Ji-hoon, is portrayed as the perfect heir to his father's legacy. His face is now all over the internet, viewed by his classmates during school. The sudden fame brings unwanted attention, leaving Ji-hoon cornered and uncomfortable. A female classmate gets uncomfortably close, inviting Ji-hoon for a private chat. Other students watch with envy, noting her privileged status allows her access to him. They move to a secluded alley, her sweet tone turning into something more demanding. The friendly facade drops as she, backed by a group of thugs, confronts him for money. Ji-hoon looks panicked, reminding her he already lent her a large sum just last week. One of the thugs grabs him, threatening to expose a secret about an illegal website he created. They trap him with twisted logic, claiming that since he made the site, he's an accomplice. The group closes in, taunting him with the idea of them all turning themselves into the police. Ji-hoon's eyes widen in sheer terror, realizing he's the one with everything to lose. His mind flashes to his father's pristine public image, now hanging by a thread. The girl leans in close, her sweet words a thinly veiled threat about how much she's counting on him. Her final plea hangs in the air, a manipulative trap designed to corner him completely. Later that night, Ji-hoon stands defeated before a closed door, his fists clenched with frustration. His hand trembles as he reaches for the handle, hesitating to face what lies beyond. He bursts into the room, his pent-up anger finally erupting from the day's events. A sudden voice stops him cold, and he freezes with a look of pure shock. He finds himself face to face with his father, whose cold gaze demands an explanation. The Assemblyman's face darkens, reminding his son that the election is just around the corner. Ji-hoon looks on in terror as his father warns him not to do anything that could tarnish the family's honor. His father straightens his tie, impatiently demanding an answer from his silent, trembling son. Ji-hoon clenches his fist, struggling to contain his rage and fear. He forces a bright smile, promising his father he won't be a disappointment. The Assemblyman looks down on him, coldly stating there's nothing left to be disappointed in. His father lays down the law, telling Ji-hoon his only job is to live as he's told. The final crushing declaration is that this controlled path is his son's entire life. Later, alone in his room, Ji-hoon slumps over his desk in utter despair. He questions his fate, wondering why he's trapped in this hopeless situation. Suddenly, something small and soft licks his hand, breaking his dark thoughts. He yelps in surprise, pulling his hand back from the unexpected contact. A small gray cat sits on his desk, looking up at him with an innocent meow. His expression softens as he gently asks his cat, Ruru, if it was worried. The playful cat climbs all over him, providing a rare moment of laughter in his dark room. He holds the little rascal up, his thoughts turning grim as he reflects on his isolation. Cradling the cat close, he admits that this small creature is the only one on his side. His focus returns to the computer, where the Night Defense ad glows with the promise of escape. With intense determination reflected in his eyes, he reveals he's finally cleared 99 waves. But just as victory is within his grasp, a glaring red game over screen shatters his hopes. The screen glitches, mocking him with the repeated failure at the final 100th wave. He stares at the finality of his defeat, unable to comprehend why he keeps losing. After hundreds of attempts, he comes to a crushing conclusion. The game was never meant to be cleared. A popular streamer loses his mind over the game's impossible difficulty as his chat explodes with outrage. Ji-hoon stares at his own screen with cold resignation, warning others away from the fraudulent game. A year after its release, countless players have managed to clear the grueling 99th wave. Yet, despite their efforts, not a single person has ever survived the final 100th wave. But Ji-hoon, with his cat watching over him, refuses to accept defeat. He stares at the screen with renewed fire, convinced this game is his only path to freedom for himself and Ruru. His entire strategy hinges on a legendary item dropped by the 99th wave boss, now fully enhanced to its maximum potential. Even equipped with the most powerful item in the game, he still failed to conquer the final challenge. Surrounded by snacks from his long gaming session, he racks his brain for a solution he's overlooked. Just then, his cat Ruru curiously steps onto the tablet, its paw touching the very item at the center of his struggle. Ji-hoon stares in disbelief, his voice catching as he sees what his cat is doing. Ruru's tiny paw presses directly onto the glowing red dismantle button on the tablet. His eyes widen in absolute panic as he realizes it's too late to stop it. A system message flashes on screen confirming Drake's heart has been successfully destroyed. He lurches back in shock while Ruru sits innocently, completely unaware of the chaos it just caused. All his hard work and countless hours are reduced to a pile of enhancement fragments. He slumps over his desk in utter defeat, lamenting that he now has to start all over again. A wave of hopelessness washes over him as he questions if starting over will even change his fate. But then, something unexpected appears among the dismantled materials, a glowing item called Dragon's Soul. He leans in closer, puzzled, knowing that dismantling an item should never produce a result like this. He questions the game's logic, knowing dismantling should only yield enhancement fragments. A shocking realization dawns on him as he connects the dots to this impossible new item. He taps the screen and a notification confirms the mysterious Dragon's Soul has been used. His face lights up with the certainty that he's finally found the answer he's been searching for. This hidden item, he realizes, is the secret key to conquering the impossible 100th wave. With a determined glint in his eye, he prepares to start the entire game over from the beginning. The scene shifts, showing him living his double life, enduring a mundane math class by day. Even in school, his focus is elsewhere, his mind completely consumed by his new game strategy. Night after night, he becomes a silhouette in his dark room, relentlessly grinding for his goal. His obsession is all-consuming as he continues to play even while walking down the street. After weeks of relentless grinding, he's back at his desk, the screen's glow cutting through the darkness. A familiar notification flashes on screen, confirming he has once again conquered the 99th wave. He recalls his secret weapon, the Dragon's Soul, obtained by sacrificing the game's most powerful item. With a confident smirk, he feels certain that his risky gambit is about to pay off. His finger hovers over the glowing start button for the final unconquerable 100th wave. The ultimate battle begins, pitting his lone character against a colossal boss and its endless horde. He taps the screen with desperate speed, channeling all his hope into his character's final stand. A massive explosion of energy engulfs the screen as his character unleashes a devastating attack. The game world blurs with the sheer force of the impact, signaling a critical moment in the fight. His eyes widen with fierce conviction, believing he is finally about to clear the impossible game. A glorious victory screen flashes, confirming he has finally cleared the impossible game. He leaps to his feet with a triumphant roar, his face lit by the glowing screen of his tablet. His celebration is cut short by his father, who stands in the doorway holding a golf club, demanding to know what he cleared. Ji-hoon freezes in terror, learning that his father received a call from the students who were blackmailing him. The assemblyman reveals they tried to extort him, using Ji-hoon's trivial mistake as their leverage. His father raises the club, reminding his son of the one command he was given to not tarnish the family's honor. Cornered and terrified, Ji-hoon desperately apologizes for his actions. Through the window, their silhouettes show the father looming over his cowering son, who promises it will never happen again. The assemblyman's face contorts with rage as he brings the club down with terrifying force. Ji-hoon's eye reflects the shattering impact, his world breaking apart in an instant. His thoughts spiral into despair as he sees his shattered tablet, a symbol of his powerlessness against his father. A tear streams down his face as a defiant thought cuts through his fear, questioning his father's role in his life. Later, he stands in his darkened room, asking his father if he has seen his cat, Ruru. The assemblyman coldly informs him that he no longer needs such a companion, leaving Ji-hoon stunned. Ji-hoon grits his teeth, his fear finally giving way to a surge of pure, unadulterated rage. His father looms over him, golf club in hand, questioning his son's sudden change in expression. Ji-hoon's face contorts with fury and panic as he desperately demands to know where his cat is. His father's voice hangs in the darkness, offering a chilling and hollow reassurance. The assemblyman then delivers a devastating blow, revealing the cat's grim fate is tied to Ji-hoon's late mother. Ji-hoon's eyes widen in absolute horror, the cruel implication of his father's words shattering what little hope he had left. The assemblyman grips his son's face, promising him wealth and honor in exchange for total obedience. He tightens his hold, delivering a final chilling warning not to disappoint him again. His father's expression shifts, his lips parting to deliver one last twisted piece of advice. He declares his belief in his son, a final manipulative attempt to cement his control. But Ji-hoon's eyes burn with a newfound hatred, realizing he can't endure this life any longer. His resolve hardens as he stares at the discarded golf club, his breaking point finally reached. Suddenly, a holographic message fills the room, congratulating him as the first player to ever clear night defense. Ji-hoon collapses in tears, believing the victory is meaningless now that he has nothing left to fight for. A new message glitches into existence on his shattered tablet, offering an unexpected invitation. The game invites him into its world as a blinding blue light erupts outside his window, changing everything. A brilliant column of light descends from the heavens, striking the heart of a vast medieval kingdom. Inside the castle, armored guards watch in awe as Ji-hoon appears, identifying him as their prophesied savior. He finds himself kneeling in a grand hall, surrounded by knights who recognize him as the legendary knight. A crowd of hopeful citizens erupts in cheers, their faces filled with relief at the sight of their rescuer. Ji-hoon looks up, feeling strangely detached and noting his tears have completely dried up. He processes this emotional void, feeling as though his feelings have been completely reset. A regal bearded man clears his throat, commanding the attention of the entire throne room. The king, seated upon his throne, formally asks if Ji-hoon is the legendary hero who has come to save them. Ji-hoon stares at the king, a sense of deep familiarity washing over him as he recognizes the man's face. He instantly recalls the game's pixelated opening, where that very same king asked the exact same question. The regal man on the throne formally introduces himself as King Bayless Jordia III. He explains that his kingdom is in crisis, with monsters overwhelming their forces on a bloody battlefield. His speech is cut short as a messenger bursts in, shouting that they're in grave danger. Ji-hoon watches with a detached expression, already knowing the kingdom's lore and current predicament. The frantic messenger whispers the urgent news directly into the king's ear. He recalls the game's pixelated intro, recognizing this moment is playing out exactly the same way. With the situation escalating, the king decides to cut his formal address short. A system window materializes, prompting him to accept the king's offer to become the Knight Commander. Unsure if this is reality or a dream, he prepares to make his one and only demand. With a determined look, he formulates his first request, 1 billion won. He flashes back to his life with Ruru, concluding that everything he fought for is now worthless. The court murmurs in confusion, questioning his strange demand and unimpressive appearance. The king dismisses the monetary request, offering to grant any desire if Ji-hoon accepts his role. Ji-hoon stands silently processing the king's incredible open-ended promise. His eyes widen as the weight of the king's offer, the power to have anything, truly sinks in. The king's tone shifts, reassuring him that all he needs to do is follow orders. Those words trigger a visceral, horrified reaction, sending a chill down his spine. His mind flashes back to his father's menacing glare and a similar chilling promise of wealth and honor. He relives the terrifying memory of his father's hand gripping his face, demanding absolute obedience. The traumatic memory of his father's control floods his vision, paralyzing him with fear. The king's face merges with his father's, both offering the same twisted promise of control disguised as belief. Ji-hoon finally snaps, his face contorted in a furious roar as he rejects their demands. The king watches in stunned silence, completely unprepared for such a defiant outburst. He realizes that everywhere he goes, people only see him as the son of a powerful man, a tool to be used. His mind flashes back to the manipulative classmates who tried to exploit his position for their own gain. He remembers how even his own father used him as a pawn, a perfect son to polish his public image. Ji-hoon questions if this new world is any different, offering him another gilded cage as the legendary knight. The entire court gasps in disbelief, utterly confused by their supposed savior's sudden rejection. He turns away, coldly dismissing the king's offer of wealth and fame. The king's expression hardens as Ji-hoon declares he has no need for any of it. With a look of pure contempt, he condemns them all and reaches for the system window. His finger decisively presses the glowing red decline button, sealing his choice. The king and his advisor stare in utter disbelief, unable to comprehend their savior's refusal. The system window shatters as a red glint in Ji-hoon's eye reflects his unbreakable resolve. He recalls the game's original story, where monsters would eventually overwhelm the kingdom. In that timeline, the player was destined to fail, leading to the kingdom's inevitable fall. This was supposed to be the tragic end of the story, but his choice has changed everything. A new system message glitches into view, confirming his rejection of the human faction. The game then grants him an unprecedented opportunity, the power to choose a new side. A hidden route unlocks before him, offering the chance to join the monster faction and rewrite his destiny. Ji-hoon's mind races as he connects the dots, realizing a monster faction in a defense game flips the entire script. He understands that from the monster's perspective, the game was never about defense. Instead, it was always about a full-scale invasion to destroy the kingdom. The king's face darkens, warning that every choice carries a heavy price. He turns to the stunned court, demanding their full attention for his next decree. With a furious expression, the king officially revokes Ji-hoon's title as the legendary knight. He declares Ji-hoon an enemy of the state for humiliating the crown and endangering the people. As the king rallies his knights, a system window prompts Ji-hoon to accept his new path with the monster faction. The enraged king gives a final, chilling order for his knights to execute the traitor on the spot. Ji-hoon lowers his head, reflecting on a lifetime of endurance that has finally reached its breaking point. The royal knights close in, their weapons poised to strike him down. With his face shrouded in shadow and eyes glowing red, he meets their aggression with chilling calm. He grits his teeth, finally done holding back a lifetime of suppressed fury. A sudden, violent outburst erupts in the throne room, sending the knights reeling in shock. The king can only stare in wide-eyed disbelief as the situation spirals out of his control. A system notification confirms his choice is complete as a monstrous shadow forms around him. New powers flood his being, granting him abilities that transcend human limits and align him with monsters. The system then reveals the ultimate objective tied to his new allegiance. His final goal is now crystal clear, the complete destruction of the human faction. As dark energy engulfs the kingdom, he declares that the time for defense is over. It's his turn to attack. A system message announces the first wave is about to begin as a horde of monsters gathers for the attack. A 10-minute countdown starts, ticking away the final moments of peace before the invasion. The game then reveals the ultimate objective for his new allegiance. His mission, framed by his own determined face, is the complete annihilation of the human faction. A new notification details the incredible reward for achieving this goal. He learns he can take one item from this world back with him. The final prize is a return to his original world, a possibility he hadn't considered. His mind flashes back to a cherished memory of his mother bringing home his cat, Ruru. A profound realization hits him. This is his chance to go back to that happier time. Back in the present, he unleashes a wave of dark energy, effortlessly repelling the charging knights. The knights reel back, stunned by the sudden explosion of ominous energy. The king watches from his throne, questioning if the monstrous form before him can even be called human anymore. His advisor notes that an energy unlike anything he's ever witnessed is radiating from Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon realizes that while choosing a faction is new, the game's core progression should remain the same. A system window confirms his theory, presenting him with his first main quest as a member of the monster faction. He calmly assesses the situation, recognizing that the game is unfolding just as he predicted. Based on his knowledge, he anticipates receiving the standard starting reward, a powerful S-rank knight summon. But instead of a knight, a mysterious dark egg materializes before him, catching him completely off guard. A new notification clarifies that his faction choice has changed the reward to an S-rank random monster egg. He wastes no time, immediately accepting his new monstrous companion. The summoning erupts in a blinding flash, sending the royal knights flying. From the chaos, a dark and menacing form begins to coalesce from swirling shadows. The guards stare in horror, realizing a powerful entity has just been brought into their world. Ji-hoon's eyes widen in disbelief, recognizing the name of the legendary monster he's just summoned. He recalls its identity, the ultimate boss from the game's infamous 99th wave. The fearsome cold-blooded dragon, Rizzledrak, is revealed in all its terrifying glory. He knows that summoning this beast at full power would mean the immediate end of the human kingdom. But instead of a colossal monster, a tiny, adorable dragon hatchling pops into existence. Ji-hoon is utterly stunned, realizing the legendary dragon has been summoned as a level 1 baby. The little creature looks up at him with wide, innocent eyes, completely unaware of its own fearsome potential. The tiny dragon affectionately licks his hand, a gesture that feels startlingly familiar. He stares in disbelief, the name of his lost cat, Ruru, forming on his lips. As the creature floats, a system window announces he's gained a new skill, Eye of the Overlord. He quickly learns this passive ability allows him to see the hidden stats of monsters and items. The knights dismiss their initial fear, rallying to attack what they see as just a small monster. With a unified command, the entire royal guard charges toward him and his tiny companion. Ji-hoon's resolve hardens, deciding it no longer matters whether this is a dream or reality. His eye glows with a menacing purple light as a system window confirms his target is designated. He activates Eye of the Overlord, focusing the skill on the only ally he can rely on. The scan reveals the hatchling's first ability, Dragon Breath, confirming it's his key to survival. He commands his new companion, Rizzledrak, to unleash its power. The royal knights swarm him, their weapons raised for the final blow. With a desperate shout, he orders the hatchling to use its dragon breath. The tiny dragon gathers a sphere of dark, destructive energy in its mouth. A charging knight freezes, his face illuminated by the impending blast. Someone in the court watches in absolute horror as the attack is unleashed. A devastating beam of red energy erupts, tearing through the throne room and its occupants. The destructive blast rips through the castle and streaks across the sky over the kingdom. A massive piece of the castle wall plummets toward the unsuspecting citizens below. Ji-hoon stands with his dragon in the ruins, gazing out at the world through the hole they just created. Ji-hoon stares at the chaos he's created, a flicker of surprise on his face at the sheer scale of the destruction. The surviving courtiers are in disbelief, one of them pointing out the entire palace wall was just obliterated. Others recoil in terror, calling him a demon and questioning what kind of monster he could have possibly summoned. A dark smirk forms on his lips as he realizes conquering this world might be far easier than he ever anticipated. He recalls the ultimate prize, certain that completing his mission will allow him to return home with any item he desires. With countless legendary weapons and artifacts available, he decides there's no need to rush his choice. A memory of his dark, lonely room flashes in his mind, reminding him there's nothing to go back to just yet. With his tiny dragon growling on his shoulder, he resolves to focus solely on clearing the mission at hand. The king's voice booms across the ruined hall, addressing Ji-hoon with a cold, formal title. His face grim and resolute, the king prepares to deliver a new, chilling proclamation from his throne. With his dragon growling, Ji-hoon vows to bring destruction, all for the sake of his reward. A shadow of doom falls over the sprawling kingdom as the sky darkens with smoke and chaos. Far from the throne room, a blonde knight looks on with concern, sensing the grave danger at the palace. The king grits his teeth in desperation, urging his forces to hold on just a little longer. Meanwhile, a red-cloaked warrior with a spear sprints through the corridors, rushing to protect her king. Ji-hoon stands calmly amidst the destruction, asking his tiny dragon to prepare another powerful blast. A panicked commander orders the remaining guards to form a desperate, multi-layered shield wall. He looks on with contempt, knowing their pathetic defense is utterly useless against his dragon's power. Dark energy coalesces around him as he points forward, singling out his one and only target. His objective is clear: the enraged king, who sits defiantly on his throne, awaiting the inevitable. Just as the king is cornered, a red-cloaked warrior bursts in, announcing she has arrived to protect him. The remaining royal guards maintain their shield wall, a last desperate line of defense for their monarch. Ji-hoon's eyes narrow as he prepares to command his dragon to unleash another devastating blast. He gives the order, expecting the same overwhelming power to obliterate his enemies. But the tiny dragon just puffs its cheeks, looking panicked as the attack completely fizzles out. The red-cloaked warrior reaches the throne, relieved to find her king unharmed by the failed attack. The king's advisor scratches his head in confusion, questioning why the monstrous power suddenly vanished. Ji-hoon's expression darkens as he notices the exhausted dragon, realizing skills must consume a resource. A system window confirms his suspicion. Dragon Breath uses a massive amount of MP, and his companion is completely drained. With his ultimate weapon on cooldown, he resorts to a simple attack, lashing out with a thin whip of energy. His weak attack fizzles out, leaving him and his tiny fuming dragon completely exposed. He grits his teeth in frustration, realizing his easy victory was short-lived and he must now wait for his dragon's power to return. A heavily armored warrior steps forward, their imposing figure dwarfing Ji-hoon as they question his actions. Ji-hoon turns with a grim expression, sensing the arrival of a truly powerful opponent. His mind flashes to the game's ranking system, recalling the 5 tiers of knights from weakest to strongest. He remembers the most powerful tier, the 12 S-rank Zodiac Knights, with a chibi version of Ares appearing in his memory. The legendary knight Ares materializes before him, a formidable warrior with a spear and an intense gaze. Ares identifies himself as the kingdom's strongest knight, his first concern being the safety of his king. A bead of sweat rolls down Ji-hoon's face as he understands the gravity of facing such a legendary foe. With their champion present, the royal guard receives the order to advance and eliminate the palace invader. The S-rank knight, Ares, accepts the order, his staff already blazing with intense power. Ji-hoon panics, realizing he's completely out of his depth against such a powerful foe so early on. His eyes widen in horror as he remembers Ares is one of the legendary 12 Zodiac Knights. Ares wastes no time, raising his staff to unleash a devastating area of effect skill. He slams his weapon down, unleashing a torrent of fire that proves he's an overpowered early-game character. A massive flame wall erupts, trapping Ji-hoon and his tiny dragon in a fiery inferno. Ji-hoon's hair turns white from the sheer heat and shock as the flames close in. The fiery blast tears through the castle, sending debris flying into the evening sky. A lone hand reaches out from the inferno, a silent testament to the knight's overwhelming power. The royal guards are caught in the blast, their silhouettes consumed by the very flames meant to protect their kingdom. Ji-hoon sits stunned amidst the fiery chaos as a fallen knight begs for help. He instantly recalls the game mechanics, knowing the flame wall is a direct linear attack. Because he was the primary target, he managed to dive and shield his dragon just in time. He looks at the fallen royal guards, realizing Ares sacrificed his own men without a second thought. A surge of fury courses through him at the knight's utter disregard for his allies. Ares scoffs at his survival, unimpressed by his desperate attempt to evade the attack. The S-rank knight's eyes glow with malice as he promises the next attack will be fatal. Ji-hoon watches his opponent, calculating that the powerful skill must now be on cooldown. He briefly considers this an opportunity, but one look at his drained dragon tells him he's still hopelessly outmatched. Ares lunges forward, sword ablaze, ready to deliver the final devastating blow. Cornered and desperate, Ji-hoon frantically searches his mind for any possible way to survive. He refuses to let his journey end here, watching Ares charge through the flames for the final blow. Just then, a system window appears, offering him an unclaimed reward from his first quest. His vision blurs with urgency as he realizes this random item box is his only hope. He roars with desperation, demanding the system deliver his last-minute lifeline. With a powerful punch, he smashes the accept button, claiming the reward with explosive force. A mysterious chest materializes in his hands just as Ares closes in for the kill. A blinding golden light erupts from the box, momentarily halting the knight's attack. The chest opens to reveal a massive, ornate black sword radiating immense power. He immediately activates his Eye of the Overlord skill to identify this unexpected new weapon. The scan reveals an S-rank sword, Hellbringer, boasting an insane magic attack stat. He can't believe his luck, questioning if he really just pulled an S-class weapon. With his dragon on his shoulder and a legendary sword in hand, he realizes the game has a clear purpose for him. His eyes widen with a dawning understanding of the immense power he's just been given. He concludes the game's true objective is the total annihilation of the human faction and plants the sword into the ground. But as he stands in the ruins, the sword embedded in the floor, something feels terribly wrong. A sudden wave of panic hits him as he senses an unexpected and dangerous reaction. The ground beneath the sword erupts in a violent explosion, shattering the throne room floor. He's thrown off balance, caught completely off guard by the weapon's destructive backlash. The floor collapses entirely, sending him plummeting into the darkness below with a terrified scream. He curses the palace's shoddy construction, which couldn't even handle the weight of his new sword. His panic turns to disbelief, realizing he hadn't even had a chance to swing the weapon yet. Plummeting through the air, he refuses to accept such an absurd and anticlimactic end. He instinctively braces for impact, shielding his head as the ground rushes up to meet him. Suddenly, his fall stops, leaving him hanging in midair, panting with relief and confusion. He looks down to see the hard stone courtyard he narrowly avoided smashing into. The frantic flapping of tiny wings reveals the unexpected source of his midair rescue. His little dragon, Rizzledrak, struggles to carry him, proving its incredible strength despite its size. Below, a crowd of stunned citizens points to the sky, witnessing a man flying for the first time. After that close call, he grimly accepts the ridiculousness of starting his invasion from deep within enemy lines. He reflects on the disastrous encounter, realizing it gave him a crucial piece of information. He now understands the massive power gap between himself and the kingdom's forces. He knows that Ares is just the first of many S-rank knights he'll have to face. With this new understanding, he decides his top priority is to escape the kingdom and regroup. Meanwhile, Ares trembles with fury and shame, questioning his honor after letting Ji-hoon escape. The S-rank knight spirals into self-loathing, calling himself a pathetic fool for failing his king. He's so consumed by his failure that he doesn't even notice a page trying to get his attention. The page finally breaks through his despair, informing him that the king has summoned him. Ares immediately rushes to the throne and kneels, begging for punishment for his failure. The king calmly cuts him off, pointing to the setting sun with a grim and knowing look. The king reveals a grim truth. As night falls, the monsters only grow stronger. He places Ares in command of the war, ordering him to the walls to defend the kingdom. The monarch watches with a heavy heart, the fate of his people resting on this one night. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon and his tiny dragon make their escape, silhouetted against the sunset. As he flies, he recalls the game's brutal difficulty, especially the first wave that crushed so many players. He remembers the overwhelming horde of wild goblins, an impossible challenge for any new account. The game was designed so that this initial wave was almost completely unbeatable without a lucky S-rank summon. He realizes the kingdom is safe for now, since Ares' powerful fire attacks can easily wipe out the goblin horde. Ji-hoon considers how differently things might have gone if another type of S-rank knight had been there instead. His strategic thoughts are cut short as he notices they're slowly descending, his dragon clearly running out of steam. He urges his exhausted dragon onward, desperate to escape the kingdom's walls. But their flight falters, sending them plummeting towards the city streets below. Ji-hoon's face contorts in terror as he realizes they're about to crash. They hurtle directly toward a massive stone wall, unable to change their course. Their escape is cut short as they slam into the ground in a cloud of dust and debris. He gets up surprisingly unscathed, noting with confusion that the crash barely hurt him. Examining his hands, he realizes his body is now unnaturally tough and resilient. A sudden voice interrupts him as he finds a pair of boots, questioning his identity. He looks up in absolute shock, his mind reeling at this unexpected encounter. Before him stands a formidable blonde warrior, and he realizes with dread that she's another S-rank knight. A system window identifies the formidable warrior as Lib, an S-rank holy knight. He instantly recognizes her, recalling she was the secret to his victory against the 100th wave. In the game, she was an underrated S-rank knight, often overlooked for being weak in defense. But combined with the dragon's soul, she was the only one who could defeat the final boss. The knight draws her sword, repeating her demand for him to identify himself. He smirks, knowing he's the only person in this world who understands her true potential. She presses her blade closer, surprised when he addresses her by name. He thinks back on his countless failures, all leading to his discovery of her hidden value. Lib is taken aback as he confirms she was once the cornerstone of his entire strategy. But with his allegiance now changed, he realizes his former key to victory is now just another enemy to be destroyed. She decides he's a primary threat that must be eliminated on sight. Meanwhile, under a darkening sky, the first wave of the monster invasion begins to stir. A vicious goblin with glowing red eyes signals the start of the attack. On the castle walls, terrified soldiers spot the approaching horde, their initial defenses already failing. An overwhelming swarm of goblins crashes against the kingdom's main gate. A volley of arrows rains down, but it's not enough to stop the relentless tide of monsters. The defenders resort to throwing stones as the goblins begin scaling the massive walls. From above, the sheer scale of the invasion is revealed as the kingdom's defenses are completely overrun. A panicked commander desperately calls for his superior, realizing they won't last much longer. A subordinate brings a sliver of hope, announcing that the legendary knight Ares is on his way to the battle. Amidst the chaos, Lib confronts him, demanding to know his identity. She warns him that his silence will force her to make a grim judgment call. Ji-hoon coolly assesses the situation, knowing he can't defeat the strongest close combat knight. He decides that a strategic retreat is his only viable option for survival. He puts on a disarming smile, trying to pass himself off as a lost, helpful citizen. His innocent act is completely shattered when his tiny dragon pops out with a fierce roar. Lib's eyes narrow with suspicion as she immediately identifies the creature as a monster. Ji-hoon panics, realizing his cover is blown at the worst possible moment. Now viewed as an accomplice, he considers flying away on his dragon to escape. But he knows it's a losing battle, as Lib would cut him down before he could even get off the ground. He quickly hides behind the knight, feigning confusion to sell his innocent act. Lib falls for it, stepping forward to protect the helpless citizen from his own tiny dragon. The little dragon looks up with wide, harmless eyes, playing its part perfectly. Lib's expression hardens with suspicion, not entirely convinced by the creature's innocent facade. Rizzledrak doubles down on the cuteness, adding sparkles for maximum effect. The S-rank knight is completely flustered by the adorable display as Ji-hoon mentally notes her weakness. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocks the distant castle wall, signaling the escalating invasion. The blast startles them both, but Ji-hoon sees it as the perfect distraction to make his escape. On the chaotic battlements, soldiers scramble as their own defenses seem to backfire spectacularly. When the dust settles, Lib finds herself alone, realizing her charge has vanished in the confusion. A soldier rushes to Lib, finally locating her amidst the city's chaos. Her attention snaps to the main gate as she realizes the true scale of the invasion. The massive wooden gate trembles violently, threatening to splinter under a relentless assault. Behind the gate, a line of soldiers braces for impact, their faces pale with fear. Huge cracks spread across the wood, signaling that their last line of defense is about to fail. Lib strides forward with two swords, ordering her troops to drop their bows and prepare for a melee. Outside, the goblin horde completely overwhelms the gate's defenses, ignoring the arrows from above. A hulking monster winds up for another devastating blow with a massive spiked club. Lib and her soldiers stand firm, a small but determined force against the inevitable breach. The soldiers grip their swords, their expressions a mix of terror and resolve as they await the coming storm. The massive gate finally splinters under the force of a spiked club. Lib raises her glowing sword, preparing her soldiers for the inevitable breach. A hulking monster roars in triumph as it smashes through the last of their defenses. The monster horde floods the city square, a tide of chaos overwhelming the kingdom's forces. Ares arrives on the scene, staff in hand, annoyed that the battle started without him. Lib looks on in surprise, questioning the S-rank knight's sudden appearance. Ares' face contorts with rage as he learns the main gate has already fallen. He internally seethes at the incompetence of the soldiers under his command. Without hesitation, he unleashes a massive pillar of fire directly into the fray. The entire goblin horde is instantly engulfed in a devastating inferno. Ares stands amidst the flames, his expression one of cruel satisfaction as he watches the monsters burn. From a safe distance, Ji-hoon watches the burning kingdom, recognizing the tide of battle has turned. He reflects on his past life, where he was the only player to ever stop 100 waves of monsters. But now his objective is flipped. He must destroy the human faction within that same 100-wave limit. His tiny dragon companion looks up at him, a familiar and comforting presence in this new world. He gently pets the creature, his resolve hardening with the thought of returning to a happier time. As rain begins to fall, the little dragon looks up, a small moment of peace before the storm. Ji-hoon holds his companion close, making a silent promise for their future. He vows that the next time he returns to this kingdom, things will be very different. Meanwhile, back at the gate, the human soldiers erupt in cheers, celebrating their victory over the first wave. Lib stands resolute in the rain, vowing that this victory will be the kingdom's last. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon walks a lonely path into the woods as a monstrous shadow hints at what lies ahead. He reflects on his journey, which began deep within the very kingdom he now seeks to destroy. Now far from the city, he finds himself in a strange, glowing forest, the heart of the monster faction's territory. He understands this entire route is uncharted territory, a path that never existed in the original game. His countless resets gave him perfect knowledge of the kingdom's every move and battle tactic. But out here, in the monster's domain, all of his old strategies are completely useless. Standing on a cliff's edge, he suddenly remembers a crucial detail he'd overlooked in his escape. He turns to find his tiny dragon companion, Rizzledrak, safe and sound on his shoulder. His relief is cut short as the little dragon's stomach rumbles, reminding him of a very practical problem. His focus is suddenly broken by an unexpected sight, his eyes widening in confusion. He discovers a line of tiny, cartoonish ants diligently carrying pebbles across the ground. The ants freeze in their tracks, dropping their cargo as they notice his imposing presence. One of the ants breaks into a cold sweat, its face a perfect picture of absolute terror. His tiny dragon watches the spectacle with feline curiosity, reminding Ji-hoon of his lost cat. Pushing the strange encounter aside, he sits down to figure out his next move in this unfamiliar territory. Just as he predicted, a glowing red system window materializes, offering him a new objective. The main quest is revealed. He must unite the monsters and build his own faction to earn a new skill. He mulls over the task, realizing he'll have to personally recruit members for his new army. His thoughts immediately turn to the most common early-game monsters, expecting to run into some goblins. He questions the complete absence of low-level monsters, wondering how he'll even communicate to recruit them. Just then, a shadowy blur slices through the tall grass, moving with incredible speed. He whips around, startled by the sudden aggressive presence he senses nearby. A dark tendril shoots past him with a clear, murderous intent for the human in its territory. His eyes widen in terror as the shadowy appendage comes straight for his throat. The tendril wraps around his neck, lifting him off the ground with suffocating force. The sheer power of the ambush kicks up dust and leaves, showing the attacker's strength. He struggles for air, a bead of sweat rolling down his face as he's completely overpowered. But just as he's about to pass out, a mysterious hand touches the tendril, causing it to halt. His eyes dart to the side in disbelief, trying to process who or what just saved him. He stares in shock at his rescuer, a figure with long, flowing white hair. His savior is revealed to be a fierce-looking beastkin girl with striking blue eyes. He incorrectly identifies the powerful warrior as a rabbit, much to her annoyance. The beastkin girl's ears twitch in irritation, clearly insulted by his guess. She gets in his face, furiously correcting him and insisting she's more like a fox. Her rage escalates as she accuses him of calling her cute, which he never actually did. Ji-hoon calmly analyzes her features, ignoring her tantrum to properly identify her species. A sudden realization hits him as he correctly identifies her as an Arctic fox. Her expression shifts, a flicker of surprise showing that he finally got it right. He's suddenly surrounded by 3 identical copies of the Arctic fox girl, leaving him completely flustered. The Arctic fox girl eyes him suspiciously, noting he looks human but smells like a monster. Ji-hoon is taken aback, confused by her strange observation. A system window suddenly appears, confirming 2 of his passive skills have just activated. He learns he now has monster communication and a skill that makes monsters instinctively like him. It all clicks into place for Ji-hoon, but the fox girl just thinks he's muttering to himself again. She gets right in his face, aggressively demanding to know who he really is. He recoils in surprise, completely flustered by her sudden interrogation. He questions why his likable monster passive isn't working, as she's clearly not a fan. His confusion deepens as the skill meant to win monsters over seems to have completely failed. Suddenly, the dark tendril from before slices through the air, ending the conversation with a violent splash. A trio of menacing hunters emerges from the woods, celebrating their successful capture. Ji-hoon watches them drag a rope, realizing they must be a bandit faction from outside the kingdom. The Arctic Fox girl glares, her worst fears confirmed now that she sees more humans. Injured and caught in their trap, she furiously accuses Ji-hoon of leading her right to them. She demands to know why he's hunting her kind, believing he's part of the group. He tries to defuse the situation, insisting that this is all a huge misunderstanding. The lead bandit shoves the rope into his hands, annoyed by his constant muttering. Now holding the rope, he's been unwillingly made an accomplice in her capture. The bandits yank the rope, pulling the fox girl into the air as Ji-hoon stands there, stunned. The largest bandit lunges forward with a weapon, preparing to deliver a brutal strike to their helpless captive. But the Arctic Fox girl isn't helpless, using a powerful kick to break free from the rope. Ji-hoon stares in disbelief, completely caught off guard by her sudden display of strength. The bandit's punch connects with a brutal impact, but she manages to weather the blow. Her attacker smirks, confident that he has the upper hand in this fight. His expression hardens as he prepares to follow up with another powerful strike. She glares back with defiance, catching his fist mid-air and stopping his attack cold. With a swift motion, she twists his arm and lands a powerful spinning kick to his side. The bandit's eyes widen in pure shock, realizing he severely underestimated his captive. She finishes her counterattack with a devastating axe kick, slamming him into the ground. While one bandit panics, their leader watches calmly, completely unfazed by the turn of events. Ji-hoon watches in disbelief as the bandit leader effortlessly counters and drops the fox girl with a single kick. The bandit leader looms over the fallen beastkin, his face twisted with contempt for his captive. His thoughts reveal a deep-seated prejudice, furious that a monster would dare to fight back against a human. He pins her to the ground with his boot, demanding she stop struggling and accept her fate. As Ji-hoon watches the scene unfold, he can't shake the feeling that something is deeply wrong. The Arctic Fox girl grits her teeth in humiliation, overpowered and trapped beneath her captor's foot. Ji-hoon clenches his fist, questioning why he's so bothered by the fate of a monster he just met. The bandit leader casually approaches him, checking to see if he's okay after the brief scuffle. He offers a friendly warning, explaining that this area is dangerous because it's crawling with beastkin. The leader then questions why Ji-hoon is wandering through such a perilous forest all by himself. The bandit looms over the defeated fox girl, taunting her with his club. He loses his temper completely, raising his weapon to deliver a brutal blow. Ji-hoon's eyes flash with a dangerous light, his patience finally wearing thin. The bandit leader calmly intervenes, warning his subordinate to stop before going too far. The subordinate flinches and apologizes, admitting he got carried away in the moment. The leader turns to Ji-hoon with a sigh, casually explaining that his men can be a bit overzealous. His friendly demeanor vanishes as he gets uncomfortably close, his expression turning sinister. He then grabs Ji-hoon's wrist, forcing a knife into his hand with a menacing grip. The leader looms over him, remarking that knowing about his special ability would have simplified things. The scene cuts to the stained knife lying on the dirt, hinting that the confrontation took a dark turn. Ji-hoon clutches his stomach in agony, demanding to know what the bandit leader meant. The Arctic Fox girl watches the sudden turn of events, her expression shifting from anger to shock. He feels an intense heat spreading through his body, realizing the knife was poisoned. The bandit leader calmly reassures him that the wound wasn't meant to be fatal, just persuasive. He then delivers a chilling ultimatum, revealing the poison will run its course in just 12 hours. The leader dangles a vial of green liquid, offering the antidote in exchange for a specific service. To make his point, one of the bandits roughly grabs the captured fox girl by the head. He explains that Ji-hoon's special ability to communicate with monsters is the key to finding their hidden village. The bandit leader's true objective is finally revealed. He wants the location of the Arctic Fox Den. Now poisoned and blackmailed, Ji-hoon understands he's being forced to betray the very monster he just met. His tiny dragon sits alone, watching a flock of birds take flight in the distance. Ji-hoon repeats the bandits' demand, his mind racing to understand their true objective. The leader clarifies their goal is a hidden village of beastmen, offering Ji-hoon survival in exchange for its location. Clutching his wound, he glares at them, questioning why they're so obsessed with finding this place. The captured Arctic fox girl desperately pleads with him not to betray her people. In a shocking act of defiance, she prepares to silence herself permanently to protect her home. Ji-hoon's eyes widen in horror as he realizes the extreme lengths she's willing to go to. Her captor recoils as she follows through, determined to take her secrets to the grave. Ji-hoon is frozen in disbelief, witnessing her incredible sacrifice to protect her village. The furious bandit mocks her desperate act, calling her a savage beast as she glares back with unwavering resolve. The bandit leader complains that every beastkin they capture chooses the same grim fate within a day. This makes their mission to find the hidden fox den seem utterly impossible. His subordinate intervenes with a forceful blow, stopping her desperate act of defiance. He brutally restrains the injured fox girl, ensuring she can't try to escape her fate again. The leader coldly remarks on their captives' complete disregard for their own lives. He orders his men to stay back, cautiously warning that more beastkin could be lurking nearby. Ji-hoon analyzes the situation, recalling that foxes are clever enough to sense danger instinctively. The bandit leader dangles the antidote, ordering Ji-hoon to guide them to the den in exchange for their lives. Ji-hoon glares back, demanding to know what thing they're so desperate to find. The leader reveals their boss lost something, framing their invasion as a simple retrieval mission. The bandit's manipulative expression triggers a painful memory for Ji-hoon. His mind flashes back to a classmate who used a sweet smile to borrow money she never intended to repay. He always knew they were lies, but he endured it, believing it was a necessary sacrifice. His old philosophy was simple: endure anything as long as it served his ultimate goal. He remembers how she used his money to keep bullies away, treating him as a convenient tool. He believed that as long as he was useful to others, he would be allowed to exist. Back in the present, he applies that same twisted logic, convinced the bandits won't kill him if he cooperates. Fueled by a desperate will to live, he forces himself to stand, refusing to die in this forest. He turns to the captured fox girl, seemingly giving in to the bandits' demands by ordering her to lead the way. The defeated beastkin lowers her head as he promises that compliance is the only way to ensure no one else gets hurt. The bandits are stunned, realizing their leader was right about Ji-hoon's unique ability to communicate with monsters. The Arctic fox girl admits he feels different from other humans, revealing her village has over 100 beastmen. She looks up with a mix of hope and suspicion, asking if she can truly trust his promise to keep them safe. Ji-hoon meets her gaze, his expression hardening with conviction despite his injury. He makes his allegiance clear, firmly stating that he is not on humanity's side. Clutching his wound, he assures her that he's trustworthy and that the bandits are the real enemy here. His eyes suddenly widen in alarm as he realizes he's made a critical miscalculation. The bandit holding the fox girl hostage is suddenly interrupted by a tiny, furious dragon perched on his head. Rizzledrak erupts in a silent, demonic roar, causing the bandit leader to question why Ji-hoon stopped translating. Ji-hoon is caught completely off guard, struggling to explain the sudden outburst from his companion. The tiny dragon's eye transforms into a void of pure, destructive energy. The bandit leader questions the creature's sudden shift in attitude, looking to Ji-hoon for an explanation. His subordinate finally spots the floating dragon, shocked by the sudden appearance of another monster. Rizzledrak gathers a familiar, ominous power in its mouth, preparing to strike. The other bandits try to warn their leader, but the fox girl knows it's already over. Ji-hoon watches with cold certainty, knowing there's no escape from what's coming. The bandit leader's plea for help is cut short as the dragon unleashes its devastating breath attack. His final desperate cry for mercy echoes unheard. A precise beam of red energy pierces the bandit leader, ending his threat instantly. In the aftermath, Ji-hoon stands over the fallen bandit, his point brutally made to the remaining captors. Ji-hoon coughs up blood, the poison's effect still racking his body. The remaining bandits stare in wide-eyed terror, unable to process their leader's sudden demise. The tiny dragon lets out a panicked cry, clearly drained from its powerful but desperate attack. He grits his teeth in frustration, realizing the dragon's cooldown makes it an unreliable weapon. A patch of grass smolders where the beam narrowly missed, a testament to its destructive power. One of the bandits trembles, realizing that even a glancing blow from that attack would have been fatal. The other bandit grips his weapon, his life flashing before his eyes as he contemplates his own mortality. Fueled by terror and rage, he lunges at the tiny dragon, determined to eliminate the threat. Ji-hoon's eyes widen in alarm as he watches the bandit charge his exhausted companion. The little dragon is sent tumbling across the ground, overwhelmed by the brute force of the attack. The tiny dragon lies on the ground, completely knocked out from the powerful blow. The remaining bandit seethes with rage, furious that the small creature almost took his head off. His subordinate suggests capturing the unconscious dragon, thinking it might be valuable. Ji-hoon calmly states he has no need for their antidote, his expression turning cold and distant. The bandit misinterprets his words, ordering his men to stand guard while he deals with Ji-hoon personally. He looms over the fallen dragon, enraged that a mere monster would dare to challenge him. Ji-hoon spits blood, questioning the twisted logic that his ability to talk to monsters is his only key to survival. His mind flashes back to his school days, remembering the familiar feeling of being judged solely on his worth to others. He recalls his younger self, forced to endure a pathetic existence just to be allowed to live. A profound realization dawns on him, signaling a major shift in his entire worldview. He remembers the painful moment he was cast aside, deemed completely useless by someone from his past. His younger self stood alone in a dark room, knowing exactly where that path of being a tool would lead. But now with blood on his hands, he vows he won't regret losing anything ever again. The bandit brings his club down with full force, intending to finish off the tiny, unconscious dragon. The Arctic fox girl looks back in stunned silence as Ji-hoon steps in front of her to block the blow. With a chillingly calm expression, he decides it's time to show them who is truly useless. A system window suddenly appears, confirming a new passive skill has been permanently activated. The skill is Physical Monster, granting him a level of strength that transcends human limitations. The bandit's eyes widen in pure shock, his attack halted by an impossible display of power. Ji-hoon catches the massive club with a single hand, the impact shattering the ground and sending the antidote vial flying. The Arctic fox girl stares in utter disbelief, her mind struggling to process his impossible display of power. His two remaining subordinates are frozen in terror, witnessing their leader get completely overpowered. With a single, decisive move, Ji-hoon sends the bandit crashing to the ground, utterly defeated. He stands over his fallen foe, a silent and imposing figure who has just flipped the entire power dynamic. As the antidote shatters on the ground, the remaining bandits wisely decide to flee for their lives. The fox girl watches him, baffled by his strength when she knows he should be succumbing to the poison. Her suspicion grows as she realizes this human is far more than he appears to be. Ignoring his own injuries, Ji-hoon immediately kneels to check on his fallen dragon. He gently cradles the tiny creature, moved by its desperate attempt to protect him. Even while unconscious, Rizzledrak nuzzles against him, a low growl of affection rumbling in its chest. He looks down at his dragon, the creature's loyalty reminding him of someone from his past. His mind flashes back to his cat, Ruru, who was a constant source of comfort and strength. He remembers the long, lonely nights of gaming, with his cat as his only companion. Back in the present, he looks at the injured dragon and makes a solemn vow to protect it. With a bloody but determined smile, he reaffirms his promise, ready to face any threat for his new friend. The remaining bandits, however, are not ready to give up just yet. One of them tries to intimidate him, threatening him with the wrath of their powerful boss. Ji-hoon simply meets their threats with an icy, unwavering glare that promises retribution. His cold intensity is more than enough to shatter their remaining courage. The terrified bandits finally break, turning tail and fleeing into the woods as he watches them go. Rizzledrak, now awake, lets out a surprisingly fierce roar for its size. But Ji-hoon's bravado fades as the poison finally overwhelms him, causing him to stumble.
He collapses face first onto the ground, the Arctic fox girl watching in stunned silence.
Her expression shifts from suspicion to alarm as she realizes he's truly in danger. The little dragon frantically tries to wake him, nudging him with concerned chirps. Lying on the dirt, Ji-hoon's vision fades as he wonders if this is how his journey ends. His panicked dragon looks on, terrified of what will happen if its master doesn't get up. As he loses consciousness, his mind drifts to a painful memory of his mother in a hospital bed. His thoughts darken, focusing on the person he blames for his family's suffering. The memory shows his younger self, clenching his fists in helpless frustration by her bedside. The memory concludes with his younger self seething over a broken promise from someone who never came. His eyes flutter open, a warm light pulling him back to consciousness. He finds himself in a dimly lit cave, completely disoriented and unsure of where he is. The Arctic fox girl supports his weakened body, warning him not to move as he questions why she saved him. She carries him on her back through the winding cave, a lone torch lighting their path to safety. They emerge into a hidden village where the beastkin residents are shocked to see her return with a human. A crowd of rabbit-like villagers gathers, murmuring with suspicion about the human in their midst. Despite their caution, some of the villagers feel an unexplainable sense of trust towards him. Lying in a hut, he's watched by the curious villagers who wonder when he'll wake up, unaware the poison has been cured. He's actually been awake the whole time, but he's too mortified by the audience to even consider getting up. The Arctic fox girl tries to disperse the curious crowd, asking them to give their guest some privacy. A new voice cuts through the chatter, questioning why a human would save one of their own. Ji-hoon's eyes snap open, a flicker of recognition crossing his face as he hears the familiar voice. A regal beastkin woman with a golden headpiece reveals she knows he's been awake the whole time. She explains the villagers' curiosity, noting that while he looks human, he doesn't carry their scent. Now sitting up, Ji-hoon is flustered as the Arctic fox girl confirms his strange monster-like aura. He examines his hands, suddenly realizing the poison's debilitating effects have completely vanished. The fox girl casually mentions they used a village antidote, prompting him to question where he is. His expression hardens as he processes this new information, a grim realization dawning on him. A flashback reveals the fox girl's terror, knowing that leading the bandits here would have doomed her entire village. He remembers her desperate attempt to silence herself, a grim reminder of her initial distrust. He questions why she would save him after being so wary of him just moments before. The Arctic fox girl turns away, explaining it's because he's a human who doesn't smell like one. The regal beastkin confirms this, but Ji-hoon presses, sensing there's more to the story. She pauses, her expression softening as she recalls another, more important reason. Her mind flashes back to the moment she saw him cradling his injured dragon with genuine care. She admits that witnessing his devotion to his companion was the real reason she chose to help him. Ji-hoon strokes his chin, attributing her change of heart to his likable monster passive skill. The regal woman suddenly loses her temper, annoyed by his constant muttering after she went to the trouble of saving him. Nearby, his tiny dragon finally stirs, letting out a massive yawn as it wakes from its recovery nap. He formally thanks the Arctic fox girl for saving his life. The tiny dragon's eye snaps open, fully recovered and alert. He bows deeply in gratitude, but she insists such a formal gesture isn't necessary. Flustered, she tries to downplay her actions, suggesting they're even since he helped her too. Ji-hoon's attention shifts to his companion, a name finally coming to mind after hearing its cry. The newly named Rizzledrak leaps into the air, overjoyed to be reunited with its master. He happily cuddles the affectionate dragon as the fox girl curiously repeats its name. Deciding it's time for proper introductions, she prepares to share her own name. Her introduction is cut short by another villager, who reveals her name is Rhea, and that the chief has summoned them both. The scene transitions to a bright, clear sky, signaling their journey to meet the village leader. Ji-hoon looks around in awe, finally seeing the legendary beastfolk village for himself. Rhea explains their village, Warren, was once a rabbit settlement, but is now a sanctuary for all displaced beastkin. As they walk, a villager checks on Rhea's injury, noting her unusually somber mood. A massive bull-like beastkin stops them, sternly warning Rhea about the dangers of the human forest. The bull beastkin watches them leave, his expression filled with concern for Rhea's safety. Ji-hoon observes how deeply the villagers care for her, and she quietly confirms it. He finally asks why she seems so down, but his question only seems to startle her. She suddenly explodes with frustration, catching him completely off guard with her sudden outburst. Rhea furiously demands to know if his name is Hay, since he hasn't bothered to ask for hers. She crosses her arms, clearly irritated by his lack of basic courtesy. Caught off guard by her outburst, Ji-hoon finally introduces himself. He awkwardly gives his full name, Kim Ji-hoon, guessing it must sound strange here. She responds by reciting her incredibly long and formal name, leaving him utterly confused. After clarifying it was her name, she turns to a concerned villager, asking about her injury. Rhea happily reassures the villager she's healed, while Ji-hoon privately notes how odd her name is. He realizes her entire mood shifted for the better, simply because she got to introduce herself. He takes a moment to look at the sky, contemplating his new surroundings and allies. As they arrive at a beach, a system window confirms his main quest is to unite the monsters, starting with this village. Rhea impatiently calls out to him, reminding him of their appointment with the village chief. He watches her skip ahead, deadpanning as he wonders why she demanded his name only to keep calling him Hay. Ji-hoon reluctantly follows Rhea, his mind still on the monumental task of uniting the monster faction. They're greeted by the village chief, an elderly rabbit beastkin who cheerfully announces his retirement. Both Ji-hoon and Rhea are left speechless, completely blindsided by the chief's sudden declaration. Rhea frantically tries to stop the chief as he begins to walk away, leaving them in charge. The chief calmly states he's too old for the job, ignoring Rhea's protest that Ji-hoon is a complete stranger. She argues that handing over the village to a newcomer based on a dream is completely insane, but the chief is resolute. Her pleas fall on deaf ears as the chief walks away, leaving her to fume over his irreversible decision. Ji-hoon, however, remains silent, calmly processing this unexpected and absurd promotion. The scene then flashes back to a few moments earlier, revealing the context for this bizarre situation. The chief explains to them that he has prophetic dreams, and they have a habit of becoming reality. The chief reveals his dream foretold that Ji-hoon alone is destined to save their village. A system window confirms his new main quest: unite the monsters and build a faction. He connects the dots, realizing the chief's prophecy is directly tied to his quest. The phrase "save the village" sinks in, making him realize this peaceful sanctuary is in imminent danger. His mind flashes back to the bandit leader's words about retrieving a lost item for their boss. A cold sweat breaks out as he understands the bandits are the threat the chief's dream warned about. Snapping back to the present, he urgently calls out to Rhea to get her attention. He asks a crucial question, worried that she might have been followed back to their hidden home. Rhea confidently explains their village, Warren, has remained undiscovered thanks to its secluded location. She begins to explain the specific reason their village has always been safe from outsiders. She explains their village is naturally fortified by an impassable mountain range and a vast ocean. Rhea clarifies there's only one other way to enter their hidden sanctuary without scaling the cliffs. The secret entrance is a network of tunnels originally dug by the rabbit beastkin. Its complex maze-like structure makes finding the path to Warren nearly impossible for outsiders. She confidently states she didn't notice anything strange on her way back, but Ji-hoon isn't convinced. His lingering suspicion is confirmed as he spots something alarming on the ground. Fresh bloodstains on the cave floor prove that they were not alone. A surviving bandit lurks in the shadows, a triumphant smirk spreading across his face. From the cave's mouth, the bandit gets a clear view of the hidden beastkin village. He gloats, knowing he successfully tracked them back to their secret home. Ji-hoon's gaze falls on Rhea's bandaged leg, a sense of dread washing over him. His worst fears are confirmed by a fresh splatter of blood on the cave floor. The surviving bandit grins from the shadows, his mission a resounding success. Panic erupts in the village as a lookout spots the human intruder at the entrance. Ji-hoon and Rhea turn in alarm as the cry echoes through Warren, announcing their sanctuary has been breached. The captured bandit sweats nervously as the enraged villagers surround him, their language a terrifying mystery. Ji-hoon calmly explains to the crowd that the intruder simply followed the blood trail from Rhea's wounds. Rhea's face pales with shock, realizing her carelessness has endangered her entire village. She hangs her head in shame, but the bull beastkin quickly absolves her of any blame. He reassures her that now that the spy is caught, they can simply erase the trail and secure their home once more. The villagers rally around Rhea, assuring her that she is not to blame for the intrusion. But Ji-hoon's relief is cut short as he realizes two other bandits are still unaccounted for. The captured bandit scoffs at their concern, promising their entire village will soon go up in flames. He boasts about his crew, a group so infamous that even the kingdom avoids them, led by a boss named Screaming All. The bandit gleefully announces that their leader is already on his way, with an army of over 200 men. Ji-hoon's expression darkens as he tries to place the unusual name. Meanwhile, the two escaped bandits make their way through a dark cave, one supporting the other. The injured bandit grits his teeth, muttering the name of their boss as he stumbles forward. He suddenly points ahead, demanding his companion avenge him for the humiliation he suffered. A massive, horned figure emerges from the shadows, its glowing eyes fixed on the two subordinates. The escaped bandit frantically reports to his boss, announcing he's successfully located the secret entrance. His leader, the infamous Screaming All, sits on a stone throne and calmly praises his subordinate's success. With a cruel smile, the boss confirms that their forces are already mobilizing to attack the den. The subordinate grins, reveling in the fact that their infiltration mission was a complete success. Back in the village, the captured bandit smugly reveals he wasn't the only spy and that this was all part of a larger plan. Meanwhile, the other two bandits are seen fleeing, with one trying to convince his injured partner to stop. The injured bandit refuses to retreat, his expression hardening with grim determination. He declares that their moment has finally arrived, hinting that their mission is far from over. The captured bandit addresses the entire village, gleefully announcing that their doom is imminent. Rhea stares in confusion, completely baffled by the prisoner's confident and terrifying proclamation. Rhea calls out to Ji-hoon, her face a mask of panic as he remains stoic. He calmly confirms their worst fears, stating the bandits know their location and are on their way. The full weight of the situation crashes down on Rhea, her eyes wide with terror. Ji-hoon's expression shifts as he finally places the name Screaming All from his past life. His mind flashes back to the game, where players leveled up knights by defending against monster waves. But he remembers that grinding levels alone was never enough to survive the game's brutal difficulty. To overcome this, the game introduced a secondary system centered around adventurers. Players would form parties of knights and send them on missions to clear different stages. Completing these stages rewarded players with crucial items and gold to strengthen their forces. These missions spanned a massive world map, from Goblin Forest to the Demon King's lair, across 100 stages. He recalls his past life, admitting he doesn't remember every detail, but the final part of Stage 110 stands out. The game map shows that stage was Screaming All's hideout, a village hidden behind a rocky hill. He remembers that while he skipped most of the lore, he's certain about one crucial detail. A grim realization hits him. The Beastkin village, Warren, never existed as a stage in the original game. According to the game's lore, the location where Warren now stands was destined for a fiery end. The memory is clear. This place is fated to be completely destroyed. Back in the present, the captured bandit smirks, deciding to make a desperate offer to the villagers. He begs for his life, promising that anyone who helps him will be spared by his boss. Ji-hoon knows the Beastkin can't understand the words, but the bandit's desperate plea is planting seeds of fear. The terror spreads through the crowd, seeping into their hearts and shaking their resolve. The villagers' faces fill with dread as the bandit's words sink in, a young Beastkin clinging to his mother in fear. Rhea is crushed by guilt, believing her mistake has doomed her entire village. Ji-hoon knows that if things continue this way, the Beastkin are facing total annihilation. The captured bandit continues his tirade, promising that Warren will soon become their new base of operations. With his face cast in shadow, Ji-hoon makes a silent vow to prevent that from ever happening. The bandit's taunts follow Ji-hoon, who has already decided Warren's true purpose. He looms over the captive, informing him that this village will be the heart of his new monster faction. Ji-hoon clenches his fist, his patience for the bandit's threats completely exhausted. He declares that this place will become their stronghold, a bastion for his new army. Without another word, he delivers a decisive kick, silencing the bandit's rant for good. The bandit's face contorts in shock as he's sent reeling from the powerful blow. The bull Beastkin breaks into a cold sweat, completely stunned by the human's sudden brutality. The rabbit villagers recoil in terror, their faces frozen in a collective gasp of horror. Rhea covers her mouth, her eyes wide with disbelief at Ji-hoon's ruthless display. He stands over the fallen bandit, declaring he's heard enough of their pointless threats. With a hardened expression, he clenches his fist, announcing it's time for them to fight back. The regal Beastkin woman steps forward, her face set with determination as she vows to protect Warren at all costs. But the bull Beastkin immediately dismisses the idea, calling their plan completely impossible. He gestures around them, explaining they built their village in secret for a very specific reason. He reveals that Warren is a sanctuary for the weak, filled with women and children who have never known battle. Rhea tries to appeal to the old chief's wisdom, but he just laughs at the idea of them being unable to fight. Ignoring all protests, the chief gathers the villagers to make his final official declaration. He formally names a stunned Ji-hoon as the new chief of Warren, sealing the village's fate. Meanwhile, the bandit army marches steadily through the caves, their arrival imminent. The scout who escaped proudly points out the village entrance to his boss, Screaming All. The bandit leader surveys the hidden valley, immediately deciding to claim it for himself. With a sinister grin, he declares that this village will become the new headquarters for the Screaming All gang. He gives the order, and his massive army of bandits charges forward, ready for a brutal takeover. Back in the village, the bull Beastkin gives Ji-hoon a grim report, estimating the enemy force at around 200. He then reveals their own pathetic fighting strength. Just 3 bull Beastkin, including himself, to defend everyone. The bull continues his grim tally, adding 2 unenthusiastic deer Beastkin to their meager forces. He then points out 5 nervous-looking sheep Beastkin, who seem less than ready for a fight. The count concludes with Rhea, the lone Arctic fox, standing as their most experienced warrior. With a grand total of 112 villagers, the bull Beastkin questions if they have any hope against a much larger army. Ji-hoon calmly processes the numbers, acknowledging they're facing an enemy nearly double their size. He knows from experience that in a real battle, individual strength and skill matter far more than sheer numbers. His mind flashes back to Rhea's ambush, remembering how she effortlessly dispatched a bandit with a single powerful blow. He visualizes her easily handling 2 opponents, realizing her combat prowess is significant despite the villagers' inexperience. A sudden thought strikes him as he reconsiders the bull's words about them never fighting. He realizes their inexperience might hide a terrifying secret power, imagining them transforming into monstrous forms. He clenches his fist, convinced that if everyone is as strong as Rhea, they can win this fight. To confirm his theory, he asks the bull Beastkin, Taur, to rank Rhea's strength within the village. He smiles confidently, certain the game wouldn't throw him an impossible first mission. Taur considers the question carefully as Rhea playfully dangles Rizzledrak in the background. His hopes are instantly crushed when Taur reveals Rhea is actually the strongest warrior in the entire village. Taur clarifies that even if every other villager teamed up against her, it wouldn't make a difference. The Bull Beastkin confirms that in any scenario, Rhea would be the undisputed victor. The grim truth sinks in for Ji-hoon as his optimistic strategy completely falls apart. He deadpans, realizing this means everyone else in the village is utterly useless in combat. Shifting focus, he confirms with Tor that the bandits will reach the cave entrance by sunset, giving them a few hours to prepare. Rhea questions how he knew the exact timing of the bandits' arrival. He reveals he simply interrogated their captive, though Tor mistakenly gives Rhea the credit. Ji-hoon then brings up the bandits' supposed mission to retrieve a lost item for their boss. Rhea ponders what this item could be, guessing it might be a village heirloom or some hidden resource. She quickly dismisses the idea, stating their village of refugees has nothing humans would want. It dawns on Ji-hoon that the story was just a convenient excuse for an invasion. Tor interrupts his thoughts, asking the new chief for a plan as the villagers await his command. Ji-hoon's expression hardens, his mind already working on a strategy for their defense. He knows from his gaming past that to beat a larger army, individual power is the key. His plan begins to form, centered around Rhea, the village's undisputed strongest fighter. He questions if Rhea is strong enough to take on so many opponents, or if the rest of the villagers are just that weak. He struggles to gauge their true power, wishing he could see their stats like in a game. A sudden realization strikes him as he remembers a crucial detail he'd completely forgotten. He recalls his passive skill, Ruler's Eye, which allows him to view monster and item stats. His excitement turns to panic as he realizes he has no idea how to activate it. He tries to remember the standard command for checking stats in a game. His mind conjures an image of a player coolly opening a status window with a single word. Inspired, he strikes a dramatic pose and shouts the command word himself. His grand gesture is met with an awkward silence as absolutely nothing happens. Mortified, he realizes that just saying the word isn't enough, recalling that other commands work differently. He tries a different command, and a glitchy red window materializes before him. To his surprise, he realizes his second attempt was actually successful. He stares into his inventory, the Abyss slot, which is completely empty as he expected. He deduces the monster faction has its own unique inventory system, dubbed the Abyssal Vault. This triggers a memory, making him realize he forgot something crucial in the chaos of his escape. His mind flashes back to the powerful, glowing red sword he left behind. He remembers leaving it stuck in the rubble of the collapsed kingdom. He mentally kicks himself for not storing the valuable weapon in his inventory when he had the chance. He accepts that retrieving the sword is impossible now, forcing him to abandon the thought. With that regret set aside, he returns to the original problem of figuring out how to view the villagers' stats. He mentally runs through the 4 passive skills that have been activated since his arrival. First is Ruler's Eye, the very skill he's struggling to use to view stats. Next is Monster Communication, the ability that started this whole mess. Then there's Likeable Monster, which is supposed to make Beastkin trust him. And finally, Physical Monster, the source of his newfound superhuman strength. He realizes that unlike the others, Ruler's Eye must be manually activated each time. Rhea snaps him out of his thoughts, frustrated by his inaction as the bandits close in. Her anger fades into guilt as she asks for his command, feeling responsible for the impending attack. She stands resolute, vowing to do whatever it takes to protect her home and her people. Her determination snaps him back to the present, reminding him that time is running out. He realizes he doesn't need to overthink it, his eye glowing with newfound understanding. A targeting reticle locks onto Rhea as a system window confirms the activation of Ruler's Eye. A massive, glitchy stat window materializes between them, leaving him to ponder the activation method. It clicks for him that his inventory is a system function, activated simply by thought. Ruler's Eye, however, is a skill, which means it requires a different kind of command. The activation process is actually quite simple once he breaks it down. He just needs to choose a target and focus his intent, finally understanding the skill's name. Her stats appear, revealing she's a surprisingly high B-rank warrior. He's pleasantly surprised, realizing her power is on par with an intermediate knight. A detailed breakdown shows her stats are heavily skewed towards attack, and she possesses a transformation skill. Rhea tries to discuss his new responsibilities, but Ji-hoon is completely distracted by her stat window. He notices a mysterious heart icon next to her name, displaying a value of 40. As she pledges her loyalty, his finger seems to press down on the strange icon. He watches in confusion as the number suddenly drops to 35, wondering what it signifies. His hand moves on its own, poking her directly on the nose and earning an immediate glare. He panics, trying to explain it was an accident, but Rhea is already questioning his fitness to lead. Her frustration finally boils over as she completely rejects the idea of him being their chief. She unleashes a powerful slap, sending him flying with the sheer force of her outrage. Unfazed, Ji-hoon gets back to his feet and calmly orders Tor to gather all the villagers. He turns back with fresh claw marks on his face, awkwardly trying to pretend that everything is perfectly fine. Ji-hoon begins the tedious process of assessing every single villager's combat potential. After a long wait, a nervous sheep beastkin announces he's the final one to be checked. The mental strain of using Ruler's Eye repeatedly leaves Ji-hoon completely exhausted. He confirms the village has 114 residents, but his gaze falls on their most powerful asset. Activating his skill one last time, he focuses on the sleeping Rizzledrak. The dragon's S-rank stats reveal it's a glass cannon, with abysmal physical attack but immense magic power. He analyzes its devastating dragon breath, noting its massive MP cost and slow recovery rate. With a grim expression, he realizes their ultimate weapon is on a 2-day cooldown and can't be used. He reviews their remaining top fighters, the B-rank Rhea and the surprisingly sturdy C-rank Tor. The rest of the villagers are revealed to be E-rank, finally explaining why Rhea is considered untouchably strong. He compares their ranks to Kingdom Knights, realizing E-rank is so low it's practically a non-combatant class. His game knowledge reveals the bandits' hideout was a C-rank stage, meaning their average fighter is far stronger than his villagers. With all the data gathered, Ji-hoon now has a crystal-clear picture of their desperate situation. In terms of numbers, they're already at a massive disadvantage, outnumbered nearly 2-1. When it comes to quality and equipment, his army of frightened villagers is completely outclassed by the battle-hardened bandits. He clenches his fist, concluding that based on the stats alone, defending Warren is an impossible task. But a spark of defiance lights in his eyes as he reminds himself this isn't a game with fixed outcomes. He knows reality has variables that can't be measured by stats, factors he can exploit to his advantage. Looking toward the cave entrance, he resolves to create his own opportunities and change their grim fate. Turning to Rhea and Tor, Ji-hoon prepares to unveil the strategy he's devised to save them all. A massive army of bandits marches through the forest, their sheer numbers a terrifying sight. The bandits' expressions are grim and confident, a clear sign of their battle-hardened nature. From the bushes, 2 rabbit beastkin scouts watch in horror as the enemy approaches. Panic sets in as one scout urges the other to race back and warn the village chief. Their worst fears are confirmed. The bandits are just moments away from the cave entrance. Before they can react, one of the scouts is brutally struck down in a surprise attack. The remaining scout cries out in terror, her eyes wide with shock and grief. A menacing bandit emerges from the shadows, confirming he knew they were watching all along. The surviving scout is quickly overpowered, her face splattered with blood as she's captured. Despite her capture and injuries, her expression hardens into one of pure, unyielding defiance. The surviving rabbit scout frantically flees back towards the village, desperate to deliver a warning. Screaming All calmly raises a hand, ordering his confused subordinates to halt their pursuit. One of the bandits questions the command, shocked that they're letting the messenger escape. The bandit leader clarifies that he has no intention of letting them go. With a cruel grin, he reveals his true strategy is to let the scouts spread terror and panic. Back in the cave, Ji-hoon is already putting his own plan into motion, directing villagers into organized teams. The terrified scout finally reaches the cave entrance, racing to deliver the urgent news. Ji-hoon turns, his expression calm and focused, ready for the inevitable confrontation. The scout skids to a halt, announcing that the human invaders have finally arrived. Tar looks up with grim resolve, confirming their enemy is now at their doorstep. Rhea calls out in alarm, horrified by the scout's blood-soaked appearance. The injured rabbit scout sprints desperately, announcing the arrival of the human invaders. She finally reaches the villagers, confirming their worst fears. The enemy is at the entrance. Ji-hoon remains unfazed, recalling his experience as the sole survivor of 100 brutal waves. He clenches his fist, ready to lead the monster faction's very first defensive battle. With cold determination, he vows that the invaders will not set foot inside their sanctuary. Outside, the bandit army led by Screaming All finally arrives at the mouth of the cave. The boss confirms the location with his subordinate, who proudly reports the route is clear. Unwilling to waste any more time, the bandit leader decides on a swift and decisive attack. He gives the order to finish the job by sunset, and his army roars as they charge into the cave. Ji-hoon and Rhea watch from the shadows as the bandit army marches into the cave. Rhea nervously questions their plan, but Ji-hoon knows the first move is the most critical. The bandits march confidently through the tunnels, their footsteps echoing off the stone walls. One of the bandits checks his notes, estimating they're only 30 minutes away from their target. The invaders mock the silence, assuming the beastkin are cowering in fear somewhere in the village. The bandit Ji-hoon previously defeated vows to get his revenge as the army presses forward. Suddenly, one of the bandits stops, feeling an unusual vibration under his feet. He looks around in confusion, trying to pinpoint the strange sound coming from the ground itself. The entire cave floor beneath the army suddenly shatters, catching them completely by surprise. His eyes widen in pure terror as he realizes the ground is giving way beneath them all. The bandits scream in terror as they plummet into a massive pitfall trap. The remaining bandits stare into the dust-filled chasm, stunned by the sudden ambush. One of the survivors cries out, his face a mask of pure shock and disbelief. Screaming All and his lieutenants look down from the edge, witnessing the devastation of the trap. Down in the pit, the fallen bandits are left broken and disoriented amidst the debris. A subordinate rushes to his boss's side, furiously pointing out that they've walked right into a trap. The bandit leader's eyes widen, his initial confidence replaced by cold, calculating fury. He quickly deduces the trap's simple but effective design, a deep pit hidden under a thin layer of earth. A diagram illustrates how the weight of the marching army was the trigger for the collapse. Once the weight limit was reached, the supports gave way, sending his men plummeting into the chasm below. The bandits are baffled, realizing the traps are brand new and weren't there during their initial scouting. They stare into the dark tunnel, realizing that moving forward recklessly could be a fatal mistake. One of them tries to warn their leader, pointing out that more traps could be hidden ahead. But Screaming All cuts them off, completely dismissing their caution with a furious outburst. He demonstrates his point by effortlessly lifting a massive boulder, showcasing his monstrous strength. With a powerful heave, he hurls the giant rock down the dark corridor ahead of them. The boulder smashes into the ground, revealing another hidden trap and raising the question of how the defenders knew their exact path. The bandit leader explains that since the cave was dug through a mountain, the original floor was solid rock. He deduces that any covered pits would be noticeable if they just looked closely at the ground's texture. His subordinates look on, a nervous sweat breaking out as they realize their leader is absolutely right. He scoffs at their primitive tricks, easily identifying the gravel-covered areas as the obvious traps. The bandit leader arrogantly dismisses the beastkin as weak, seeing their simple traps as proof of their inferiority. Unfazed, he orders his men to rescue the fallen, while the main force carefully navigates around the pitfalls. Watching from the shadows, Ria's confidence wavers as she sees the bandits have already figured out their strategy. But Ji-hoon reveals a confident smirk, telling a stunned Ria that this was all part of his plan. He explains in a flashback that he knew digging deep pits through solid rock was too time-consuming for the villagers. He also anticipated that they wouldn't be able to perfectly conceal the hastily made traps on such short notice. Ji-hoon reveals his true gambit. Only 2 of the pits were real, while the rest were complete fakes. The fakes were designed for one purpose, to make the invaders paranoid and slow their advance for the next phase. By planting the fear of hidden dangers, he successfully cut the enemy's marching speed by more than half, buying precious time. Ji-hoon calmly announces it's time to move to the next defensive position. Outside the cave, the ground rumbles as the next part of the plan is set in motion. The very structure of the cave begins to shift and crack under some unseen force. The bandits are startled by the sudden tremors, their cautious advance turning to confusion. They recall their scouts' simple instructions: take the right path at the upcoming fork to find the village. Screaming All pauses, a flicker of suspicion crossing his face as he considers the scouts' words. But instead of a simple fork, they're met with 3 identical dark tunnels, throwing their plans into chaos. His men begin to argue, completely disoriented and unable to agree on which path is the correct one. The bandit leader scoffs, realizing the beastkin are using illusions to stall for time. A smirk spreads across his face as he finally understands the true purpose of the cave. It was all just a massive delay tactic. He correctly deduces the beastkin are stalling to prepare a defense and decides to press the attack. To counter their delay tactics, he orders his forces to split into 3 groups and advance simultaneously. The left tunnel is assigned to his subordinate, a man named Crane, and his squad. A hulking brute named Dump is tasked with leading his own team through the middle passage. Screaming All confidently takes the right path for himself, believing it to be the correct route. Crane's group quickly runs into trouble, finding their path blocked by a cave-in and a fallen comrade. He curses their luck, realizing they've been led into a dead end. In another tunnel, Dump's group sees a promising light ahead, believing they've found the way out. The muscular subordinate rallies his men, certain they're about to reach the village and ready for a fight. Screaming All's group also spots an exit, confirming his suspicion that he chose the right path. Screaming All smirks, convinced his intuition led him down the only correct path. He gives his men a simple, brutal command: show no mercy and eliminate everyone. With a roar, his forces charge out of the cave, expecting to find the village. At the same time, Dump's group bursts out of their tunnel, equally ready for a fight. But Screaming All's confidence vanishes, replaced by utter confusion at what he sees. Dump's team finds themselves not in a village, but in the middle of a dense forest. It's revealed the two tunnels were a brilliant misdirection, leading to separate exits on the same cliff face. Dump's group spots the village far in the distance, realizing they've been completely outplayed. He orders a messenger to run back and inform the other groups of the deception. But before the messenger can leave, another bandit points towards the field, spotting something unexpected. The bandits are greeted by the sight of their captured comrade, tied helplessly to a tree. Screaming All's group emerges from their tunnel, enraged to find their man used as a trophy. The captured bandit is too terrified to answer, his eyes wide with fear as his allies question him. Dump takes a head count, realizing with dawning horror just how many men they've already lost. The lone messenger sprints back into the cave, desperate to warn the others about the deception. He stops dead in his tracks, sensing an ambush just a moment too late. Rhea intercepts him with a devastating ground slam, unleashing a powerful shockwave. The messenger is instantly neutralized, his mission to warn the others ending in failure. Ji-hoon and Rhea stand ready, knowing they must protect the advantage their traps have created. His strategy is revealed, using fake traps and altered terrain to sow chaos and whittle down the enemy's numbers. He reveals the crude traps were a psychological ploy to make the enemy underestimate them and split up. The bandit lieutenant questions his boss's order, thinking it's overkill to split their forces against only 60 foes. But Ji-hoon's plan is all about turning their greatest weakness into a weapon. The lieutenant's confidence shatters as he realizes they've walked right into an ambush. He's successfully flipped their numerical disadvantage into a tactical advantage. With the enemy divided, the 113 villagers now outnumber the 60 trapped bandits. Back in the present, Ji-hoon and Rhea emerge from the cave, their preparations complete. With a look of cold resolve, he prepares to give the final command. At his signal, the entire village charges from the trees, overwhelming the stunned bandits. He watches with a confident smirk as his plan unfolds, while Rhea looks on in disbelief. The bandit lieutenant, Dump, roars a command, leading his men into a furious charge. From above, the bandits swarm towards the seemingly defenseless rabbit villagers. Dump singles out a small rabbit girl, raising his massive hammer for a devastating blow. But just as the hammer is about to fall, Ji-hoon gives the signal for the real plan to begin. A huge cloud of smoke suddenly erupts from the ground, completely engulfing the battlefield. The bandit lieutenant stares in disbelief as all the villagers vanish into the thick smoke. Ji-hoon recalls a key detail he observed earlier. Beastfolk transformations create a natural smokescreen. He realized their seemingly weak ability to turn into small animals could be a powerful tactical tool. Now the disoriented bandits are left blind and vulnerable, completely caught in his smokescreen tactic. With the enemy blinded, Ji-hoon focuses his gaze, preparing to issue the next command to a specific warrior. From the smoke, the bull beastkin Tor emerges in a monstrous form, his eyes glowing with rage. He unleashes a devastating shockwave, scattering the bandits like bowling pins. Elsewhere, a bandit swings his cleaver wildly, completely unable to hit the nimble rabbit beastkin surrounding him. The tiny rabbits dart around his feet, tripping him up and making him lose his balance. He stumbles in confusion, completely overwhelmed by the chaotic furry assault. A surprisingly powerful blow from a rabbit's paw connects squarely with the bandit's face. Meanwhile, a deer beastkin charges through the chaos, easily knocking another invader off his feet. Other bandits find their attacks are useless against a sheep beastkin who has turned into a fluffy defensive ball. They scratch their heads in frustration, realizing their weapons can't penetrate the sheep's woolly armor. Suddenly, bandits across the field are struck down by a volley of sharp, unseen projectiles. The bandits are completely thrown off by a small, floating fox-like creature, recognizing it as one of their agile foes. From a high vantage point, Ji-hoon and Rhea observe the chaos, confident their smoke and ambush strategy has secured the advantage. Ji-hoon's expression hardens, angered by the bandits' continued underestimation of his villagers. The invaders regroup, their frustration mounting as they struggle to land a hit on the nimble rabbit beastkin. They swing wildly as the rabbits pop in and out of burrows, turning the battlefield into a chaotic game of whack-a-mole. Seeing a section of the fight faltering, Ji-hoon calmly directs Rhea to provide reinforcements. With a burst of speed, Rhea vanishes from his side, kicking up a cloud of dust as she races towards the battle. Ji-hoon watches her go, momentarily taken aback by her incredible velocity. She blurs across the field, closing the distance to a pair of unsuspecting bandits in the blink of an eye. One of the bandits spots her approach, raising his crossbow with a look of grim determination to stop her charge. But his shot is met with empty space as Rhea dodges the incoming arrow with impossible speed. The projectile reflects in her eye, her focus absolute as she calculates her next move. She twists through the air, the arrow harmlessly grazing past her as she closes the distance. Using the ground for leverage, she pivots instantly, turning her defensive dodge into a swift counterattack. She launches into a flying kick, her sights set on neutralizing the crossbowman. Her attack lands with devastating force, sending the bandit flying from the impact. But the bandit lieutenant, Dump, catches her next kick, smugly questioning her strength. He holds her fast, his massive frame easily overpowering her initial assault. Undeterred, Rhea uses his grip as a pivot, swinging her entire body into a powerful upward kick. The surprise attack connects perfectly, sending the hulking lieutenant staggering back in shock. She twists in midair, her momentum carrying her past the stunned lieutenant and towards her next target. Without missing a beat, she lands a devastating kick, knocking the massive bandit clean off his feet. Another bandit watches in horror, unable to comprehend how his comrades are being so easily defeated. He curses at Rhea, his insults falling flat as she stands over him with an air of complete dominance. The bandit's face contorts with rage and a bloody nose, his arrogance completely shattered. Rhea answers his defiance with a single decisive kick, ending the confrontation instantly. He lies on the ground, utterly defeated and left to steam in his own frustration. With 2 more invaders down, Rhea stands as a silent testament to the village's hidden strength. Her eyes glow with cold fury as she issues a silent, powerful warning to any who would dare underestimate them. Meanwhile, the lieutenant finds himself swarmed by a chaotic flurry of rabbits and sheep, completely unable to fight back. The bandit lieutenant trembles with rage, his fist clenched in humiliation. Gritting his teeth, he decides to finally unleash one of his special skills. His body begins to contort and grow, steam rising as he activates his power. Ji-hoon watches in surprise, recalling a specific rule from his old game. He remembers that in Knight Defense, only units of C rank or higher could use active skills. A stat window confirms Dump is a C-rank fighter with a strength enhancement skill, boosting his power by 50%. The rabbit beastkin stare up in terror as the now giant lieutenant mocks their weakness. He glares down at the villagers, calling them pathetic weaklings as he prepares to strike. But before he can move, a massive hand grips his shoulder, stopping him in his tracks. Dump turns in shock to find the bull beastkin Tor, towering over him in a monstrous new form. Dump's arrogance evaporates, replaced by pure terror as he stares up at the transformed bull beastkin. From his vantage point, Ji-hoon witnesses a massive impact that sends a shockwave across the battlefield. He watches in stunned silence, realizing Tor's true power far exceeds his C-rank stats. Meanwhile, back in the blocked tunnel, the third bandit group waits in tense silence. Their leader, Crane, grows increasingly impatient, questioning the long delay. The rest of his men murmur anxiously, wondering why no messengers have returned. Fed up with waiting, Crane decides to ignore his orders and take matters into his own hands. He rallies his troops, ordering them to find and reinforce Dump's squad. The scene cuts to the aftermath of the battle, confirming all 60 bandits have been successfully captured. Ji-hoon surveys the field of immobilized prisoners, confident that no one will escape to warn the others. Ji-hoon gets a grim casualty report from Tor after their first victory. He realizes that even with a 2-to-1 advantage, their victory was incredibly costly. Over half of his fighters are now out of commission, but the first phase of his plan was a success. His expression hardens, knowing the real battle has yet to begin. The remaining bandit forces still in the cave far outnumber his remaining villagers. He decides that to win, they need to go beyond simple numbers and upgrade their power. He calls Tar over, ready to give his next command as the newly appointed chief. Ji-hoon orders the distribution of all the weapons looted from the captured bandits. The villagers quickly arm themselves with the human-made swords, shields, and maces. Tor claims the most powerful weapon for himself, the massive hammer of the defeated lieutenant. The villagers stand ready, now a makeshift army equipped with the bandits' own gear. Ji-hoon's eye glows with purple energy as he activates his special ability. A system window confirms the use of Ruler's Eye to assess his newly armed forces. The stats reveal a massive power boost, with their attack power nearly doubling thanks to the new weapons. He smiles, realizing this simple upgrade has exceeded all his expectations for their fighting potential. Meanwhile, the second bandit squad finally makes its way through the cave system. They arrive at the now empty battlefield, confused by the lack of any signs of their allies. Their leader, Crane, surveys the area, unnerved by the complete and utter silence. His confusion turns to horror as he discovers his captured men buried up to their necks in the dirt. Crane's face contorts in disbelief, completely stunned by the bizarre and humiliating display. One of the bandits cries out in horror, spotting the field of his comrade's head sticking out of the ground. His shock turns to confusion as he realizes they're all still alive, just immobilized and gagged. Crane promises to rescue his men, but his attention is drawn to the suspicious number of holes dotting the landscape. Before he can act, a pair of armed rabbit beastkin emerge from the ground, blocking his path. The ground suddenly begins to tremble and crack, signaling that the villagers' trap is far from over. Meanwhile, Screaming All's main force presses on, navigating the disorienting cave system. The bandit leader grows frustrated, admitting that without a guide, they're completely lost in the tunnels. A subordinate tries to reassure him, pointing to a passage ahead that he believes is the correct route. Their leader steps forward, only to find the path splits into 3 identical tunnels, adding to their confusion. As they hesitate, the ground beneath them shatters, revealing another pitfall trap designed for a large group. A bandit shoves his comrade, realizing too late that the ground is collapsing beneath them. The unstable ground gives way, sending the bandits slipping and stumbling into chaos. The entire group loses their footing, tumbling in confusion as their leader, Screaming All, looks on. The few who remain on solid ground stare back in shock, trying to process the sudden ambush. One of the falling men desperately reaches for his boss, but Screaming All has other plans. He ignores the plea and instead slams his massive spear into the ground with incredible force. The spear tip hits solid stone, revealing the pitfall was just an illusion carved into the rock. Screaming All lets out a sinister laugh, realizing the villagers used fake traps to mislead them. His amusement quickly turns to cold fury at the audacity of his unseen enemies. A stat window reveals the B-rank leader's name is Tractor, and he vows to make the villagers pay for their trickery. A lone scout stumbles through the cave, desperately trying to reach his leader. He finally finds Screaming All's group, proudly announcing he's located the correct middle tunnel. The bandit leader, Tractor, listens to the report with a cold, unimpressed stare. Meanwhile, back at the village, the sun sets as a report confirms the second bandit squad has been completely neutralized. Ji-hoon calmly surveys the field of immobilized bandits, acknowledging Tor's good work. He reveals the secret to their success was altering the cave's layout by breaking down a single wall. This simple act of demolition created a shortcut, giving them just enough time to set up their ambush. With 2 enemy squads down, Ji-hoon knows they just need to survive one final assault. One of the captured bandits struggles against his restraints, his muffled protest filled with rage. He glares up at Ji-hoon, certain that once their boss arrives, this small victory will mean nothing. The captured bandit insists their boss, Screaming All, operates on a completely different level of power. Rhea has heard enough, delivering a swift kick that silences the prisoner's defiant rant. She reports back to Ji-hoon, confirming they have 65 combat-ready villagers remaining for the final fight. Meanwhile, the last bandit squad, roughly 60 strong including their leader, presses on through the cave. Although his forces are exhausted from the previous 2 battles, Ji-hoon sees an unexpected advantage. His glowing eye reveals a crucial change that confirms his strategy is working perfectly. The villagers have all leveled up from the fighting, gaining valuable combat experience and new strength. With a confident smirk, Ji-hoon declares his newly empowered army is ready for the final confrontation. In a moment of levity, he comically struggles with the weight of his new sword. The heavy thud of a boot signals the arrival of the final enemy force at the village entrance. Rhea announces the final wave of invaders has arrived, her expression tense. The bandit leader Tractor steps out of the cave, his remaining forces right behind him. One of the buried bandits frantically tries to warn his boss about the situation. Tractor looks upon his defeated men with utter contempt, unimpressed by their failure. He directs his attention to Ji-hoon, questioning if this was all part of his plan. Ji-hoon calmly corrects him, preferring to call it a well-thought-out strategy. The bandit leader smirks, amused by the humans' surprising audacity. He dismisses their 2 previous wins, confidently stating there won't be a third. Ji-hoon tightens his grip on his sword, prepared to prove him wrong. But instead of an immediate attack, the bandit leader decides to propose a deal. The bandit leader corrects himself, his expression hardening as he clarifies his true intentions. He reveals his offer isn't a negotiation, but a direct and brutal threat. To prove his point, he holds a sword to the throat of a captured bandit, demanding the villagers disarm. He gives Ji-hoon a grim ultimatum: surrender their weapons or watch one of the captives perish. The bandit leader waits in silence, his cold gaze fixed on Ji-hoon for a response. The terrified captive cries out, a classic hostage situation that Ji-hoon recognizes as a cheap villain tactic. Despite the cliché, Ji-hoon knows he can't risk a life and must take the threat seriously. In a surprising move, Ji-hoon lets his sword fall to the ground, signaling his surrender. He looks up in disbelief, seemingly shocked by his own decision to give in so easily. The remaining bandits grin menacingly, savoring their apparent victory over the village chief. Ji-hoon senses a sudden ominous shift in the bandits' demeanor. The bandit leader slams his hand to the ground, vowing to make them all suffer. Ji-hoon's eyes widen in horror as he recognizes the leader's true power. He realizes the bandit leader is activating a powerful area of effect buff for his entire army. A system window confirms his fears, revealing the skill Screaming Drill boosts all enemy stats by 25%. Tor and Rhea instinctively feel the surge of power, their expressions hardening with concern. Ji-hoon grits his teeth, knowing the enemy's combat strength has just massively increased. With their eyes glowing purple, the empowered bandits prepare to unleash a brutal assault. The bandit leader gives the final command, sending his supercharged army charging forward. The villagers brace for impact as the powered-up bandits descend upon them, kicking off the final battle. The empowered bandits crash into the villagers' front line, their enhanced strength immediately felt. A lone rabbit warrior bravely confronts a massive bandit, the size difference staggering. The bandit effortlessly deflects the attack, sending the rabbit villager reeling from the impact. In a display of pure cruelty, a bandit uses one of the small transformed rabbits as a weapon against the warrior. The rabbit warrior collapses, clutching his injured arm, completely outmatched by the bandit's boosted power. The bandit leader's subordinate mocks the fallen warrior, his crazed expression showing he's just getting started. The other rabbit villagers are paralyzed with fear, their courage completely broken by the brutal display. The battle turns into a one-sided rout as the bandits easily overpower the terrified villagers. But Tor erupts with incredible power, sending a bandit soaring through the air with a single swing of his hammer. The bandits react to his show of force, attempting to ensnare the formidable bull beastkin with whips. Tor finds himself ensnared, the ropes digging into his skin as the bandits pull with all their might. The bandits coordinate their efforts, using their combined weight to immobilize the powerful beastkin. Despite his immense strength, Tor is slowly dragged to his knees, unable to break free from their hold. Seeing their strongest defender neutralized, the rest of the bandits surge forward to land the final blow. Trapped and surrounded, Tor glares defiantly as a bandit leader gloats over his impending victory. Other bandits resort to fiery projectiles, targeting the small sheep beastkin who are now engulfed in flames. Meanwhile, crossbowmen take aim at two small, flying creatures, trying to shoot them out of the sky. Ji-hoon assesses the grim situation, realizing that even with their upgrades, his villagers are being overwhelmed. His gaze darts across the battlefield, desperately searching for his ace warrior, Rhea. Just in time, Rhea reappears in a flash, delivering a devastating kick that sends a bandit flying. She lands in a battle-ready stance, bracing for the next onslaught. The bandits close in, laughing as they surround her, confident in their superior numbers. Biting her thumb, Rhea glares back, her exhaustion showing but her fighting spirit unbroken. Ji-hoon watches with growing concern, realizing even his ace warrior is at her limit. Suddenly, a rabbit beastkin shoves him aside, taking a blow that was meant for him. The force of the impact sends the villager flying, crashing hard against a nearby tree. Lying defeated, the rabbit beastkin uses her last bit of strength to issue a warning. Ji-hoon grips his sword, understanding that at this rate, they will lose the battle. His expression hardens with resolve as he identifies the only path to victory. He realizes they must ignore the grunts and focus all their efforts on taking down the enemy leader. With his forces crumbling, Ji-hoon focuses his attention on the captured Tor. The bull beastkin grits his teeth, his eyes burning with defiance as he awaits his chief's command. Ji-hoon's gaze hardens, his mind racing as he communicates his final, desperate gambit. A flashback reveals he had already confirmed Tor's limits, knowing he had one last 3-minute transformation available. He had instructed Tor that this final power-up would be their trump card. Ji-hoon's order was simple: endure the attacks and wait for his signal. Back in the present, a bandit leader orders his men to finish the restrained beastkin. The bandits swarm the helpless Tor, raising their weapons for a coordinated final strike. Their blades rain down, creating a massive impact that seems to seal Tor's fate. But Tor unleashes a powerful roar, activating his awakening skill and sending his attackers flying. Ji-hoon signals the charge, sprinting alongside the newly empowered Tor. He grips his sword, knowing they have a 3-minute window to defeat the enemy leader. The duo carves a path through the grunts, their sights locked on their single target. The bandit leader Tractor smirks confidently, beckoning them to try their luck. Tor unleashes a furious roar, repurposing the whip that once bound him into a weapon. His eyes glow with pure rage as he channels all his strength into a single decisive move. He snags a nearby bandit with the whip, launching the man like a projectile straight at the boss. Tractor effortlessly catches the human missile with one hand, completely unimpressed by the display. Undeterred, Tor closes the distance and throws a devastating punch with all his might. The blow lands with incredible force, kicking up a massive cloud of dust from the impact. Tractor scoffs, completely unfazed by the punch and mocking Tor's apparent lack of substance. He effortlessly stops the massive fist with one hand, a smug grin spreading across his face. Seizing the opportunity, Ji-hoon lunges from behind, aiming to strike while the leader is occupied. But the bandit leader's smirk only widens, revealing he was aware of the pincer attack all along. He casually tosses the massive bull beastkin aside, turning his full attention to the airborne Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon's confidence shatters as he realizes his perfectly timed ambush was seen coming a mile away. Tor crashes violently into the ground, the impact sending dust and debris flying. Tractor immediately follows up, pinning the dazed beastkin to the ground with a single powerful stomp. With Tor neutralized, the bandit leader launches himself into a spinning attack aimed directly at Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon is sent sprawling, his sword knocked from his grasp as he struggles to process the overwhelming difference in power. Tractor smirks, savoring the complete and utter despair of his opponents. He leaps into the air, preparing to deliver a final crushing blow to the fallen Ji-hoon. But Rhea intercepts, single-handedly holding back the bandit onslaught to protect her chief. Ji-hoon hits the ground hard, the force of the impact leaving him gasping for air. Rhea glances back, her eyes wide with concern as she sees him struggling. Despite the pain, Ji-hoon's expression hardens, a cold fury replacing his shock. He recalls assessing his own stats after checking the villagers, remembering a crucial detail. A flashback confirms his own combat power is actually far greater than both Rhea's and Tor's. With newfound resolve, he pushes himself back to his feet, ready to rejoin the fight. He realizes he's been holding back, but now he has no choice but to unleash his full power against the humans. He recalls the passive skill Physical Monster, the source of his superhuman strength. With his eyes glowing red, he decides to bet everything on this one last hope. A system window reveals a hidden effect of his power when fighting humans. The bandit leader's smug expression vanishes, replaced by sudden, wide-eyed shock. The skill grants him a staggering 200% increase to all his stats. Ji-hoon unleashes a single devastating blow, channeling all of his newfound power into the attack. Rhea can only stare in utter disbelief, witnessing a level of strength she never knew he possessed. Even the mighty Tor looks on in stunned silence from the ground, completely floored by the display. His fist connects with incredible force, sending the bandit leader flying backward from the sheer impact. Ji-hoon looks on, hearing a sickening sound that confirms the devastating finality of his strike. The bandit leader digs his heel into the ground, halting his backward momentum with a powerful stomp. Ji-hoon stands his ground, reminding the leader that he was warned about their strength. Tractor grins through a bloody mouth, retorting that their winning streak is officially over. He effortlessly lifts Ji-hoon by the collar, while his own men question how anyone could possibly defeat him. Enraged, Ji-hoon unleashes another desperate punch, channeling all his remaining power into the strike. But the attack fails, leaving him kneeling and vulnerable before the towering bandit. He grits his teeth, bloodied but refusing to accept defeat even as his body gives out. Tractor grabs him by the head, preparing to deliver a decisive, finishing blow. He brutally slams Ji-hoon face first into the ground, the impact cracking the earth beneath them. With Ji-hoon pinned and defeated, the bandit leader coldly dismisses his last-ditch effort. Tractor holds Ji-hoon's face to the ground, ensuring everyone witnesses his humiliation. He gestures to the battlefield, making sure all eyes are on the fall of their chief. The villagers look on in horror, their morale completely shattered by the sight. Tor grits his teeth, powerless to help as he watches his leader's defeat. Suddenly, Rhea becomes a blur of motion, charging recklessly toward the enemy leader. A bandit crossbowman calmly takes aim, preparing to neutralize the incoming threat. An arrow finds its mark in her leg, but she doesn't even flinch, continuing her desperate sprint. Her expression is one of pure, unyielding fury as she closes the distance. From the dirt, Ji-hoon's eye widens as he witnesses her impossible charge. Tractor's focus shifts, surprised by the ferocity of the lone warrior rushing toward him. As the sun finally sets, the sky darkens, signaling the end of a long and brutal day. The bandit leader smirks, noting that with the day's end, any hope for the villagers is officially gone. He bellows a final command to his men, who are easily overpowering the last of the defenders. With absolute confidence, he declares that the war for this territory is finally over. A cruel grin spreads across his face as he gives his most devastating order yet. Pinning Ji-hoon to the ground, he forces him to watch as he commands his men to burn everything. Flaming torches arc through the air, raining down upon the defenseless village below. The thatched roofs of the villagers' homes instantly ignite, the flames spreading rapidly. Their precious food stores and supplies are also set ablaze, ensuring nothing will remain. Ji-hoon's eyes widen in pure horror, his spirit shattering as he witnesses their home turn to ash. The village is consumed by a raging inferno, the flames lighting up the darkening sky. Panic erupts among the villagers, their cries of terror echoing through the burning settlement. The beastkin scatter in a desperate attempt to escape the blaze that engulfs their homes. The bandits revel in the destruction, gleefully tossing more torches to feed the flames. Two villagers watch from a distance, their hope turning to ash as they realize it's all over. The bandit leader lectures the defeated Ji-hoon, mocking his naive understanding of real war. Ji-hoon's face is a mask of horror as he's forced to accept the brutal reality that the loser forfeits everything. To add to the cruelty, the invaders begin tormenting the captured children of the village. They specifically target Tor, making him watch as they threaten his family right before his eyes. The bandit leader's lesson continues, showing the wounded and fallen villagers as proof of his absolute victory. The bandit leader spells out the cost of defeat, starting with the loss of their home. Ji-hoon grits his teeth, his face a mask of bloody fury as he's forced to watch. Tractor lifts him by the throat, smugly declaring that Ji-hoon will lose his life as well. A wounded Rhea watches helplessly, her spirit breaking as she sees her chief defeated. Ji-hoon's hands reach out weakly, a final desperate gesture from a man who has lost everything. The bandit leader mocks his defiance, declaring the battle is officially over. But even in defeat, Ji-hoon's eyes burn with an unbreakable will, refusing to accept this outcome. His mind flashes back to a happier time, recalling his mother bringing home a small cat-like creature. He clings to this memory, a moment of peace he's desperate to return to. Suddenly, a system message reveals a terrifying truth. The monster's ultimate goal is the total destruction of humanity. His mind screams with defiance, vowing to see his goal through to the very end. Despite the pain, he grits his teeth, refusing to ever surrender. His silent vow echoes across the battlefield, a final act of defiance against his captor. The rabbit villagers watch in stunned silence, their hope rekindled by their leader's spirit. Tower looks on with grim concern, witnessing the unwavering will of his chief. Rhea's eyes are fixed on Ji-hoon, her expression a mixture of awe and desperation. The bandit leader just scoffs, completely unimpressed by the empty display of courage. He slowly draws a dagger, deciding Ji-hoon's part in this story is over. The blade moves towards Ji-hoon's throat, signaling the end of his resistance. The full moon hangs in the sky, a silent witness to the tragic end of the village's struggle. The full moon is reflected in an unwavering eye, signaling a sudden shift in the battle. Just as the blade is about to fall, a clawed hand intercepts the bandit leader's arm. In a flash of movement, both the leader and Rhea are sent tumbling to the ground. A bloodied hand reaches out, a testament to the ferocity of the sudden clash. The bandit leader stares in utter disbelief, completely caught off guard by the unexpected intervention. His eyes fall upon a transformed hand, its claws dripping from the recent encounter. Ji-hoon looks up from the ground, his shock mirroring the bandits as he witnesses the impossible. His mind races, recalling something strange he'd noticed about Rhea compared to the other beast folk. He remembers how the other villagers could easily transform and awaken their powers by simply using their MP. But for some reason, Rhea had never been able to awaken her true form, even with plenty of energy to spare. He recalls that even when she was on the brink of death, she never once used her transformation. The bandit leader's hand falls limp, the dagger clattering to the ground after the sudden intervention. A system window reveals the truth. Her foxfolk awakening only activates under the full moon, doubling all her stats. Now fully transformed, Rhea turns to her wounded chief, awaiting his next command. A faint, blood-soaked smile appears on Ji-hoon's face as he finally understands their ace in the hole. The bandit leader clutches his arm in agony, his limb rendered useless from her lightning-fast strike. With renewed hope, Ji-hoon gives his final brutal order: wipe out every last one of them.